Hello there. Welcome into a Thursday edition of the show. Great to have you, whether you're listening on your radio, streaming the show online at extrasports1300.com, or you've downloaded the Extra Sports 1300 app to do your listening. In that app, which is free to download and free to use, is sponsored by Diversus Health, mental health, and well-being for all. A veritable cornucopia of sports topics coming your way, and a cavalcade of star guests. Chris Hedden, Air Force defenseman, who just got named, I think this is what this award means, the best defenseman in America for the month of November. Talk about that with Chris coming up in the next segment. Speaking of Air Force women's basketball coach Stacey McIntyre will join me at 5:20 as they wind down the non-conference, coming off of a win against Wright State in Boca Raton over the weekend. And in betwixt the two of them at 4:20, it will be Donovan Lewis making his return to the program, the midday host on the ticket in Dallas, to preview tonight's very important and consequential football game between the Cowboys and the Lions. If you would like to be my guest, which you can be the rest of the time where I don't have Chris or Donovan or Stacy on, you can text or call into the show at 719-247-1313. I will start with the display from Jamal Murray last night for the Denver Nuggets, and I think the first thing I need to say is I guess the ankle's doing okay. He was questionable for last night's game with the ankle injury that he left the loss to Dallas with. And he comes out and scores 52 points in the Nuggets' 135-120 win over the Indiana Pacers. This was, I think, a good, still early on in the season, test of how Jamal Murray pushes through an injury. And the thing with Murray, it's not his unwillingness to play hurt, because he does. He plays hurt. He played hurt in the Lakers series a couple years ago, right? He's played hurt. That's not in question whether Jamal Murray is going to give it a go. The issue is how effective can he be? And will there be any lingering effects? As far as lingering effects, we'll have to wait for the next Nuggets game. But you wouldn't even know the guy was dealing with an ankle injury the way he played last night. And watching that game, I knew he was going to have a good game when he got into the front court. He kind of ran off of a half-hearted screen from Peyton Watson, but it took one step to get to his spot, immediately shot it. That decisiveness told me Jamal Murray's feeling good, and he knocked it down. It was late in the first quarter. That made it 24-17 Nuggets. When I knew he was going to have a big night was one quarter later, where he crosses over Pascal Siakam, and Siakam kind of stumbles, giving Jamal Murray the space that he needs, and he buried a three. At that point, I'm like, oh, Jamal Murray's going to have a big game tonight. And he ended up with 52. And we've talked about this before when it comes to Nikola Jokic and what the best version of the Denver Nuggets is. When Nikola Jokic puts up 40 or more points, the Nuggets struggle to win, because Nikola Jokic needing to score takes away from what he does best, which is facilitate. With Jamal Murray, that is not an issue. The more Jamal Murray scores, the better off the Nuggets are. In fact, the Nuggets are now 11-0 when Jamal Murray scores at least 40. And then you throw in Nikola Jokic with 24 points, 13 assists, and 8 rebounds. Why didn't he get the triple-double? Well, because the Nuggets weren't missing shots. Is the simple explanation. But Murray going off like that and Nikola Jokic putting up those kind of numbers, that's the best version of the Denver Nuggets. 11-0 now when Jamal Murray scores at least 40 points. Here's David Adelman on his point guard.
All I know is he's got a ring in his house. He's got a triple-double in the finals. He's got multiple 50-point games in the playoffs. The amount of games of a team he's on, that how many games we've won over this decade. And obviously Yoke's been there too, but that's been the standard, is those two guys over and over and over every year. And up to this point this season, I would say his level of play has been very, very above average.
All-star level. To correct David Adelman there. All-star level. That's what Jamal Murray has played like. He's played like an all-star. And all-star games can be a popularity contest, can be about reputation. So we'll see if he gets one of the spots on the Western Conference team and then is put into one of the, I guess, the international team. But he's deserving. And nights like last night show what Jamal Murray is truly capable of. And it's not that you hold him to that standard. I don't think he's ever going to be like, not 50, but I don't think he's ever going to be a 30-point-a-game scorer. I don't think he's ever going to lead the NBA in scoring. But he doesn't have to. He doesn't have to be deserving of an all-star nod. And he doesn't have to for the Denver Nuggets to win basketball games. But every once in a while, Jamal Murray can show you that he can score with the best of them in the NBA. And if you watch, and it's available on YouTube if you want to watch it, if you watch all of Jamal Murray's, or the vast majority of Jamal Murray's shots last night in a row, what you'll notice with him, even more so than some other scorers, like, say, Steph Curry, for instance. Look, anybody scores 50, you marvel at it. I don't care how they get 50 points. Perhaps an Oklahoma City point guard excluded. But even then, let me be fair to Shea. Puts up 50. It's worth marveling at. But Jamal Murray, what sticks out to me is the diversity in his shot selection. Right? He scores in a number of different ways. He's cutting to the basket. He's crossing guys over, the mid-range game, the three-point game. That's what makes a Murray game like that so entertaining, is that it's not just dribble the ball up, put up a three. You know, when Steph Curry gets hot from three, it's a sight to behold. But the different ways that Jamal Murray can score the basketball shows you, when he's at his best, how talented of a scorer he is. And one type of shot last night that you did not see a lot of was free throws. To juxtapose his performance to some from Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. Jamal Murray last night had 52 points on 19 of 25 shooting. He had 10 of his 11 three-pointers. He took 5 free throws. 5. Made 4 of them. There is a level of ethical hoops at play here for Jamal Murray in the way that he has these big games. And look, I've said this about Nikola Jokic before when the debates have raged on about the lack of calls that he gets. And last night, he looked like he got in a fight with a bear. His arm was really scratched up. But I do think with Nikola Jokic, and applies even more to Jamal Murray, I don't know that their playing style would give them a lot of free throws anyway, especially Jamal Murray. It's a lot of step back. It's a lot of separation. It's a lot of shooting over guys and not going into them. And that just adds to the level of enjoyment. Now, I don't knock guys for getting to the free throw line. Some guys obviously go far beyond what they should be doing. But I don't fault guys for mixing that up. In fact, Nikola Jokic, when he scored 55 against the Clippers, he shot 16 free throws. So I don't begrudge guys to get to the free throw line because they count as points too. There's a fine line that some players walk. Jamal Murray doesn't walk that fine line. The calls he gets, he earns, and his style of play, he's not going to get a lot of free throws. It's just not. And Jamal Murray, it kind of admitted as much after the game when he was asked about the level of satisfaction of scoring that many points and only shooting a handful of free throws. He mentioned that that's been his career. That's what's happened all this time. Now, maybe that's his subversive way to kind of say, I wish I got more calls. I deserve more calls. But I would just as much say it's his style of play. He's not going into guys. He's falling away from them. He's going around them. But with that, the Denver Nuggets become the third team in NBA history to have three different players have a 50-point game in one season, and we're sitting here on December 4th. There are a large number of basketball fans that haven't even tuned in yet to the NBA. That's how much season we have left, and the Nuggets already have 3 50-point performances from 3 different players. Aaron Gordon, season opener, put up 50 against the Golden State Warriors. Nikola Jokic, that aforementioned 55-point game he had against the Clippers on November 12th, and now Jamal Murray. 3 different players on the Denver Nuggets putting up 50 in a game. That's how scary this team can be offensively. That's what that shows you. 3 guys now, with the way that Aaron Gordon has come along shooting the basketball, 3 guys that can get into a zone and put up big-time numbers. Now, the only issue for the Denver Nuggets is now, can you stop teams? Because last night, not to, end this conversation on a sad note or a low note, Nuggets still struggling defensively. And that's what has ultimately cost them during that 4-game home losing streak. They didn't play great defense last night. So that in many ways, they needed all 52 of Jamal Murray's points. But they got it, and now they're 11-0 when Jamal Murray puts up at least 40 points. And as much as we talked about the problems at home, last night was the Nuggets' 8th straight road win, which is a franchise record. And they got 3 more on the road before they come home to play the Houston Rockets. 719-247-1313. Take your thoughts on Jamal Murray putting up 52 in the Nuggets win. Is he a deserving all-star in your opinion? 719-247-1313. Coming up next, Chris Hedden, Air Force defenseman, might be the best at his position in America. He joins me next. Welcome back, Drive Time Sports, here on your home for Air Force Hockey, Extra Sports 1300. The Falcons are making a bit of a move here in Atlantic hockey with points in their last 4 games. The big reason why is the newly minted HCA Co-Defender of the Month, Chris Hedden. And Chris Hedden joins me now. Congrats on the one of many accolades you've been getting lately, Chris. Does this one mean that you're the best defenseman in America?
Thank you for that. And, I don't know. I can't self-proclaim myself that at all. It's a team effort. You can't really put up the numbers and stuff like that and have the success that we've been having without everybody else. So it's really just been awesome lately. So.
Well, then let me use this as kind of a marker for you. You personally, is this as good of a stretch as you feel like you've played at the academy?
Yeah, I think so. I think on both sides of the puck, I've been playing really well, especially with my defense partner, Nolan Cunningham, and, we've been having a really good stretch here so far.
How long does that take for you? I mean, you and Luke Rowe were just like so dynamic together, and I imagine that kind of, even when it's a teammate, even when it's someone that takes a little bit of time there at the blue line. Is that a fair assessment? And have you guys kind of clicked of late?
Yeah, it definitely takes time to click, and we've been clicking a lot lately. And, we're really good friends, and we have been the whole time. So now with the connection on the ice, it's just only gotten stronger.
How do you two complement each other out there?
I think we're both pretty offensive, so we've gotten a lot better at reading off each other, knowing when, I'm going to go up in the play or he's going to go up in the play. And just being able to understand each other's play style has really been helpful.
Frank Serratore, your head coach, mentioned the other night that one thing he notices from you is that maybe you're not trying to do too much out there. But for a player like you who can do basically anything out on the ice, how difficult is that to say, even though I can do all of this stuff, maybe I don't need to because of the supporting cast I have around me?
Yeah, it's definitely tough sometimes to not do more than is needed to be done.
Mm-hmm.
But it's also necessary. And I think this year I've been able to learn that a lot more and I've been able to understand it and focus on it during the games and stuff like that. Just kind of staying true to the game plan. And like you said, like the team's been really good as well. So like everybody's been playing really well, and that obviously helps a ton.
Now let's talk about a couple of the guys who have really picked things up of late to help you guys go on the streak that you're on right now. First of all, let's talk about the guy that sits behind you in goal. What have you seen from Dominic Wasik over the last few weeks?
Yeah, he's been tremendous. He's been awesome. He's a great locker room guy. He always has been. And, this year, like, that's how it goes. You get your opportunity and you take it and never look back. And, he's really stepped into that. And he's been unbelievable for us lately.
Have you, because you're out on the ice with him all the time in practices and in games, did you see this from him? Did you look at him maybe out on the practice ice and go, this dude's got it. He can help us win a lot of games?
Yeah, I've definitely thought that multiple times. Even before he started playing,
mm-hmm.
He struggled with injuries a lot. And, it's tough. Like, he was injured almost probably 75% of the career up until this year.
Mm-hmm.
And so, like, now he's back to, he's fully healthy and able to shine.
Chris Hedden, my guest. Dominic and you have gotten recognized for your exploits. We got to get Nick Sajovic some kind of a certificate or a shout out on social media. I mean, talk about how good this guy has been for you guys.
Yeah, he's been really good. He's really stepped up this year from last year. Obviously he's our first line center, and he's been lighted up lately. He's been doing really well.
I know that you would be just fine beating anyone in America over the last couple of weeks like you guys have, but that team that you guys went out to Tate Rink and beat in 2 games. And I know you're going to see Army later in the year, so job's not finished when it comes to that. But you got a real chance to end your career winning a season series against Army. What would that mean to you in this senior class?
Yeah, it'd be awesome. Rivalry service academies are always super fun to play in.
Mm-hmm.
And it was pretty awesome that we swept out there, and now we have the opportunity to sweep the whole year on them.
For those of us who we understand the rivalry and we understand why this rivalry is unique to other rivalries in college sports, but for those of us who aren't on the ice, who aren't playing in these games, can you describe what it's like to go up against a service academy rival? Because there's your conference opponents, your rivals in that regard, but also the bigger picture of what they're doing at West Point, what you're doing at the academy. Can you explain what that's like to lay people like me who don't, aren't on the ice with you in those games?
Yeah, it's really unique because it's a rivalry based off respect.
Mm-hmm.
The respect for what they're going to do when they commission as officers, and what we do when we commission, and joining the United States military. So it's more based off respect than your traditional rivalry, when it's based off hatred for another school. That's not really what it's about. It's we want to be better than you, and we want everybody to know it. We want it's just like a more bragging rights than anything.
Mm-hmm.
And so when you go out for those games, it's not hard to get fired up. It doesn't matter what kind of season we're having, what kind of season they're having. Those games are always going to be close. It's going to be a lot of energy, and they're just a lot of fun.
Chris Hedden, Air Force defenseman, my guest. Falcons taking on Robert Morris this weekend. I know you have a lot of hockey still left to be played, but if you'll indulge me, not just the making sure that you guys sweep Army in your senior year, but overall, what kind of a mark do you hope you have and will leave on this program when all is said and done?
Hopefully a winning one.
Mm-hmm.
That's our goal. That's everybody's goal every year, is to win. But the group of guys that we have in that locker room and the potential that we've shown, we just want to win a championship and make it to the NCAA tournament. And that's what we're really focusing on. I think everybody's extremely bought into that,
mm-hmm.
and it's awesome to see.
You guys have that belief going in, because I know, talking with Frank and some of your teammates, that you guys believe that you could win this conference and do what you just said, go to an NCAA tournament. But that demonstrated ability, Broncos coach Sean Payton talks about that, the confidence that comes from demonstrated ability. These last couple of weeks, and even going back, I know you had one rough weekend, but if you look at the bigger picture, you guys have done a lot more winning than losing lately. How important is that to fortify the belief that you already had going in that this could be a special group?
It's extremely important. Confidence is the biggest thing. You got to believe in self, and then once you believe in self and then you prove it to yourself, then you're not unbeatable, but it's going to take a lot to slow you down.
Focusing on Robert Morris this weekend, what's the next puzzle piece, if you will, Chris, that you guys want to put in place, whether it's because of what Robert Morris brings to the table and you got to be good in this, or it's just a bigger thing? What's the next thing that you guys want to add, that you want to improve on this weekend against Robert Morris?
I think we just want to keep growing, not giving up too many goals, making smart plays, focus on the little details that'll help us in the future. Obviously, our goal, we want 6 points to climb in the standings, and that's our only mindset going into it. So, focusing on the little things, making sure we're having all of our details correct, and then just going out there and performing on Friday and Saturday.
Well, you can see Chris Hedden in the boys this Friday and Saturday, as he mentioned. 7:05 puck drop on Friday, 4:05 on Saturday. AFtickets.com is where you go to get those. Chris Hedden, really appreciate the time. Congratulations on some well-deserved personal accolades, but I know how you're wired. More importantly, congratulations on the last couple of weekends, and hopefully you guys keep it going this weekend against Robert Morris. Jamal Murray puts up 52 last night on the Indiana Pacers. Most people would label that as a tremendous performance. Brett, as he usually does, has an alternative opinion on the matter. Says, I think Jamal Murray is selfish. If he does not miss a shot, how will the rest of his team maintain their offensive rebound numbers? Selfish. I mean, look at who suffered the most. Nikola Jokic didn't get a triple-double. You know what, Brett? You might be right. But, man, they needed every one of those 52 points. They can't guard anybody right now. They need Aaron Gordon back, which isn't going to be for a little while now. But take your thoughts on Murray's big night, 719-24-7, 13-13. Switchbacks FC making roster decisions for the upcoming season. And when I look through the list of these decisions that the team made today, a lot of it tracks with what new head coach Alan McCann told me, even down to the names a couple of weeks ago when he joined me on the show. The players that kind of exemplify who he wants this team to be. And it started with Stevie Echeverria, and I thought that was very intentional to kind of set a tone for the players that the Switchbacks were going to bring back. But you look at the players that will be back this next season. Christian Herrera, Duke Lacroix, and Brennan Creek. The team has exercise options on all of them. Players that were already under contract for next season include Matt Mahoney, which is maybe their most important player to retain, Garvin Metusala, Jonas Fieldberg, and Kyle Vassell, who they brought in mid-season. And then guys that are under contract for a couple more years. I saw Zach Zandy with a message on social media the other day about him staying with the Switchbacks. Levante Johnson, Isaiah Foster, Aiden Rocha, and Stevie Echeverria I mentioned. And then Juan Tejada signed an extension that will keep him with the club through at least 2027. So 2 more seasons. And then they'll have an option for 2028. So the names that are returning, Tejada, Echeverria, Zandy, Metusala, these are culture guys, but they also show kind of where the mindset is for this team first and foremost. And I think it's on goal prevention first. And you saw it this season. They had a lot of issues for long stretches of that season, keeping teams off the scoreboard. And the moves that now we don't know who's coming in. That's the next step in all of this, is who the Switchbacks are going to bring in. But the players that they are retaining, extending, are high character guys. Not to say that guys are letting go aren't, but these are the highest characters. Stevie Echeverria, Zach Zandy, these are high character guys. And guys that are on the back line, in the midfield, that are going to be tasked with making sure that other teams aren't able to break them down defensively. But here's where the next part of this offseason comes in. They do need goal scorers. They're losing Quincy Huerman. They transfer Marco Micheletto out. Those are your top 2 goal scorers from last year. Yosuke Hanya, a dynamic offensive player, maybe didn't have the season that he was hoping for, but his pace out on the wing is important to what the Switchbacks do. His loan from the Colorado Rapids is expired. So you have some significant offensive pieces that the Switchbacks are going to have to replace. And I think if you're looking for kind of a theme of the Switchbacks offseason now looking outside the organization, I think there's going to be a priority placed on creative, up-tempo players to generate an attack and score goals. And Kyle Vassal's a big part of that. The early returns on Kyle Vassal aren't what he wanted or the team wanted. But he's going to be that number 9 up top that's going to be tasked. I think in an ideal world, Kyle Vassal leads you in scoring next year. And you have Jonas Fjellberg, you have Juan Tejada. So it's not like they have a dearth of offensive talent, but I think they're going to add more. I think that's the next step for Alan McCann, is to kind of fortify the attack, but certainly making the Switchbacks a tougher team to play against is part of it, and keeping the players that performed well in preventing goals seems like a top priority of the club. So, again, probably the most significant name in terms of departures would be Quincy Huerman. You saw the news a couple weeks ago about Marco Micheletto. So, and Zach Zandy's a guy that they hope can stay healthy and provide some of that. So the Switchbacks roster, at least the starting point for the roster, has come into focus with the moves made by the club today. Speaking of moves or people in charge of making moves, this news came down yesterday that the Rockies have hired Josh Burns as their general manager. That name should sound familiar because he used to be a part of the Rockies front office. He has since left for greener pastures and has headed up the front office for the Diamondbacks and the Padres. And he's been with the Dodgers as well. Institutional knowledge of Colorado, institutional knowledge of the division. But he's the guy that's going to make these moves. And I don't want to bring up, say something that is going to make Rockies fans feel like, oh no. But it's going to be a similar situation to when Tim Connolly was above Calvin Booth. Right? Different titles. But Tim Connolly started towards the end to take more of a bigger picture look at the Denver Nuggets. And the Avs did this with Sakic and McFarland too. So Paul DePodesta was brought in to kind of oversee the entire operation, to set the course for the Rockies organization as they try to get into the 21st century and they try to be at least marginally competitive within Major League Baseball. And it was going to be up to him to hire someone underneath him to do the day-to-day trading and free agent signings, and Josh Burns will be that. This is a good get. Talk to baseball people. I know that there's a smudge on his resume being part of the Rockies organization, and you go, oh no, they're keeping it in the family. Josh Burns has had more time away from the Rockies with more successful organizations than he's had in, but his connection to Colorado and this organization might have been what allowed DePodesta to get him. So now with the winter meetings starting on, I think they start Sunday or Monday, the Rockies have the guy that's going to be picking up the phone and making the calls. And now we can kind of see, I think first and foremost, it's how much are the Rockies going to be moving and shaking? Right? You remember when Dan O'Dowd came in And the Rockies made so many moves. They completely remade their roster overnight. I don't think it's going to be that, in large part because they have a dearth of assets to be able to offer up. But there's a level of activity that's not Dylan Dan O'Dowd level where the Rockies could be considered busy. That's where it starts. And then it's, do we get an idea offensively of what the Rockies want to do? This debate between, you know, the Blake Street Bombers reborn in a more contact-oriented base-running team, we may get a glimpse into that with some of the moves Josh Burns makes starting Sunday into Monday with the winter meetings. But the Rockies organization is coming into focus. Who's going to be leading the way? And the best thing I can say right now is that the people the Rockies are bringing in are accomplished, and it's looking like a modern 2025 MLB front office, which I can't believe that we have to sit here and say that as some sort of a compliment. It should be a given, but that's where the Rockies have been. You know, Jeff Passan of ESPN had a piece shortly after, it was either right before or right after Paul DePodesta was hired. But this idea that the Rockies are 10 years behind, just in terms of their operation. And now they're bringing in people who will assume roles that can get the Rockies into this century, into this year, and at least look the part. And then it will ultimately, of course, be on what moves they make. It's going to be a slow build. Like, let's not kid ourselves here. But this first year, I just want to know what the ideas are. I just want to know what direction they're going. I know it's not going to translate to wins. But what does DePodesta and Burns think about what would give the Rockies success moving forward? So Josh Burns, hired as the new general manager of the Colorado Rockies, was in the organization years ago, has spent time with pretty much every team in the NL West, and has made some really good moves. I think you can, I mean, it's getting to the point where if this front office doesn't work out, and I'm not putting a timeline on it, I'm not saying if it doesn't work within 3 years or 5 years or a decade, but whenever that day comes where we can say, all right, it's time to render a judgment here. If they didn't get it done, I don't know who's going to. And my friend and colleague, Paul Klee, the editor of the Denver Gazette sports section, used to theorize that it's not possible. It's not possible to build sustained success with the ballpark, with the altitude, all that kind of stuff. It's not possible. We'll see. I think this front office, the best thing, again, I can say is that if this front office can, I don't know that anybody can. On that note, 719-247-1313. Coming up next, what drives Sean Payton, both in general and these last handful of weeks in the NFL season as the Denver Broncos push for the top seed in the AFC? Hour 2, welcome. Appreciate you watching the show on YouTube, X, Facebook, Instagram, at XTRA Sports 1300. While you're there, like, subscribe, follow, and don't forget to drop a comment, and I can not only get to it, but I can display it on the stream and give you the notoriety you so rightly deserve. Donovan Lewis, midday host on The Ticket in Dallas, will join me in the next segment to preview tonight's game that has great consequence to it. Who would have thunk? Last time you may have been watching the Dallas Cowboys was them getting destroyed by the Denver Broncos, and now here they are coming off a win against the Chiefs on Thanksgiving. And they are, with a win tonight, would be just that tie against the Packers back of the Eagles in the NFC East. What happened? How have they done this? Among the questions I will ask Donovan Lewis coming up in the next segment. Meanwhile, the Denver Broncos getting ready for the Vegas Raiders for good reason, not one of these weeks where there's a lot on what the Broncos need to do to get the edge on the Raiders, because the Raiders, like they are most every year, are a dumpster fire. And the Broncos played extremely poorly the last time these two teams met, and the Broncos still won. So this is not a week about, is this a week it comes to an end, this winning streak, or trying to stop player X or player Y. This week has become very introspective for Sean Payton and the Denver Broncos.
I hate losing more than anything like in the world. And so I think fear of failure is a very significant motivating factor.
Yeah, Sean Payton got really introspective about what drives him and what makes him tick as a head coach. And that shouldn't be surprising, right? Sean Payton, just listen to him talk, watch him. He's a guy that hates losing more than he likes winning. And that's kind of the perfect mentality given where the Denver Broncos are right now, because they have this win streak going. And I think it would add to how much Sean Payton hates losing to lose the winning streak against this team. And with the Patriots being idle this week, a chance to jump back to the top spot in the AFC, I think it's important. I'm not saying it's a game that the Broncos should worry if they are playing well that they will lose, but it's a game, if we're talking about the race for home field advantage, it's a game they really need to have. And the tie-breaking scenarios are a little bit different. The other day I was talking about division record. That's an in-division tiebreaker. The Broncos with a win because of common opponents, if they finish with the same record as the Patriots, they would get home field. Now, you also have to look at the final four games. So, okay, let's take this as a win for the Denver Broncos, with all due respect to the Raiders. Now you're looking at the last four games. Broncos have Packers, Jags, Chiefs, Chargers. Patriots have Buffalo, Baltimore, the Jets, and the Dolphins. There's no doubt that the Broncos, regardless of whether it's home or away, have the more difficult schedule. But if they're able to navigate it and end up tied with the New England Patriots, I don't know if they're going to beat them outright. I think it very may well come down to that tiebreaker. But the Broncos would have it with the win this weekend against the Raiders. So there's that significance to it. But I also think that any divisional game, but especially this one, because of how poorly the Broncos showed on that Thursday night and the discourse coming out of it, which of course the Broncos were able to flip with the win over Kansas City, but it was just such a poor performance. And I know that the Broncos right now aren't winning a lot of style points from people, but their performances Sunday against the Commanders, the Chiefs game, even a few of these other ones are far more impressive wins. They've earned far more style points than they did beating the Raiders. That was a win that felt like a loss. But with that and a second crack at the Raiders, the Broncos have a chance to kind of put that away. I'm not sitting here saying that the Broncos need to beat the Raiders by 3 touchdowns, but just to show a little progress, a little improvement, show that they've been able to make adjustments, because that's important for 2 more games on this schedule. I would bet that the Broncos, if they need week 18 against the Chargers, they'll get it. But let's not forget that the last time those 2 teams met, the Broncos lost. So they have to make adjustments. And who knows what the playoff picture is going to look like. Right now, they'd be playing the Bills. But when we get to the playoffs, they could be playing Kansas City. Or they could be playing the Chargers. They could meet up with Jacksonville again or the Colts. You know, this team's ability to make adjustments, not just game to game, but they have a chance here to kind of show how much they've grown, maybe, to put it in that way, I suppose. But they might run into a team that they've already played in the postseason. And it might be one that they've lost to. So this week and in the weeks that they play the Chargers and the Chiefs as well, they have a chance that they don't have in other games to show their ability to make adjustments and improve from the previous matchup. But this is a game that the Broncos should be in control of. I know none of their games do they feel in control. But this should be one that even if it ends up being close, which most divisional games are, to be fair, they have a chance to have a performance to where you're never really doubting that the Denver Broncos will win the game. And they keep the winning streak going. They would then hold the tiebreaker over the Patriots, and then we get into the last 4 weeks of the season, which are going to be really interesting. But I think also this game is about getting that run game going, with RJ Harvey being the face of it. Because that's a box they did not check against Washington. And there was a stretch of about 10 minutes where Sean Payton didn't even have RJ Harvey on the field. He went to Jaleel McLaughlin. Beyond the, getting the win, beyond putting on a better performance than they did last time they played the Raiders, I think the number one thing for the Denver Broncos, they got to have a good game on the ground. And Sean Payton gave credit to Dan Quinn and his defense for not allowing the Broncos to run the ball. I don't love that. I don't love the fact that a team that has, 3 wins is keeping the Denver Broncos from playing the way that they want to play. That should not be the case. It certainly should not be the case back-to-back games. So running the ball with R.J. Harvey, having a good game on the ground, I think is important for the Denver Broncos. One interesting injury item, Zach Allen did not practice today. So the Broncos pass rush may be a little bit shorthanded. We'll see where it goes here. But Zach Allen did not practice because of a calf injury. DJ Jones did not practice for the second straight day with his ankle injury. So the Broncos defense might be a little bit shorthanded and coming off, especially the Chiefs game. But Pat Bryant was limited in practice with a hamstring. So some of the injury notes for the Denver Broncos as they get ready for the Raiders. But this should be a win for the Denver Broncos to own that tiebreaker with the Patriots, to keep the winning streak going, and then things pick up with Jacksonville, Green Bay, Kansas City, and the Chargers. Take your thoughts and expectations for Sunday's game, 719-247-1313. The week in the NFL kicks off tonight with the big one, Detroit and Dallas. The winner will be right outside of the playoff picture, and could Dallas actually run down Philly and win the NFC East? Unthinkable just a week or two ago. But mathematically, it's possible if they get a win tonight against Detroit. How feasible is it? Donovan Lewis from The Ticket in Dallas joins me next. Tonight, Thursday night football, a big game. Dallas Cowboys, Detroit Lions, as both teams are scratching and clawing, trying to get into the playoff picture in the NFC East. Joining me now is the host of The Invasion on Sports Radio 96.7 and 1310, The Ticket in Dallas. Welcome back to the show by popular demand, Donovan Lewis. Donovan, buddy, how you been?
I am fantastic. How are you?
I'm doing well. I got to make an admission at the top here, Donovan, and please don't judge me. Last time we chatted, we were previewing the Broncos game. I kind of left the Cowboys for dead after that one. What has changed in the last few weeks?
Man, it's so easy to say after the trade it was Quinnen Williams and what it means to this defense. But honestly, I think the communication has gotten better. Their defense was so bad that they didn't know what they were doing after 6 or 7 games. They had no clue. And now all of a sudden, I don't know if they simplified it. I don't know if they changed calls or what. But now you just don't see receivers running wide open. You don't see some of the things that you saw the first couple of months. So their communication has gotten better, along with the personnel getting better, because not only do you get Quinnen Williams, you got DeMarvion Overshown back from injury. Their third-round pick, Shavon Revel, is playing now. They got a couple of guys back that had been hurt earlier. So while this offense has been pretty much cooking the whole entire year, it's the defense now and their ability to make stops, because this offense thought they had to be perfect and score every single drive of every game. And that was a lot of pressure on the offense. And you can tell that they kind of created a bit in a couple of those games against Chicago, against Denver, against Arizona. They were trying to be perfect because they knew their defense couldn't stop anyone. So the defense has gotten stops. And it's weird to say, man, because they gave up 28 to Kansas City. That doesn't seem like the best defense in the world, but what we're do from what they did early in the season, it's a drastic change. Seriously, I think they held Kansas City to 4 straight possessions of punts or something like that, and that was not happening in the first couple months of the season. So their communication along with their personnel has gotten better since the trade, and it's showing up for the results of the game, man. But you know what? I will make this admission. I'm as surprised as you. I had no clue that they were going to be able to even attempt to get better defensively with what they were doing with Matt Eberflus, the coordinator, saying, hey, this is what I do, adapt to it. And the players saying, look, this is what we do well, let's adapt to that. So now I think they're kind of meeting in the middle, and you're seeing the results.
Is there, and to your point about the number of points they gave up to Kansas City, but isn't there something to be said, Donovan, for timely defense, right? On third down, is that where you see the most improvement from this Cowboys team on third down?
Absolutely. And it was I would take you back to the Sunday game before Thanksgiving against Philadelphia. And Philadelphia has the ball and tie game, and everyone thinking, every Cowboy fan is probably thinking, here we go. As much as you've gotten back into this game, they're going to drive down, kick a field goal, and win the game. And it was the most timely third down sack from Oso Odighizuwa that forced the Philadelphia Eagles to punt. Cowboys get the ball, go down, and get the winning score. And even if you flip the script as far as the Kansas City game goes, it was the offense that held the ball from Kansas City. Because what we were thinking here, oh my gosh, Kansas City is going to get the ball one more time, drive down, and either tie or win it because of Patrick Mahomes. And the coach and Brian Schottenheimer was so aggressive in his play calling on that last drive to make sure that they didn't even touch the ball to secure the win. It's just, again, something that we didn't expect to happen this year because it started out so poorly.
With the addition of Quinnen Williams, remind me what the Cowboys have left after the Micah Parsons trade, because didn't they parlay some of that for Quinnen Williams?
They parlayed one of the Green Bay first-round picks in 27, and then they used one of their own second-round picks next draft. So a first rounder and a second rounder. So basically it was Michael Parsons. You got back Quinnen Williams, a first-round draft pick, and Kenny Clark. Okay. That's basically the haul that you got back.
So was Jerry right? I mean, where are we at with him right now?
Man, that's a great question, because it pains anyone here in this Metroplex to give that dude any credit. any credit whatsoever. It pains anyone. As soon as I mention maybe Jerry Jones was on or something on the show, man, you'll get blasted. No way, no way, no way. So was he right? Man, that's really tough to say because you see what Michael Parsons is doing in Green Bay. And the one thing that the Cowboys had severe issues with early was getting a pass rush. And you just gave away the best pass rusher in the game. So on the surface, you can say, no, you could still use Michael Parsons. But they figured out this new 5-man front with those 3 defensive tackles. And you wouldn't have those 3 defensive tackles if you didn't get rid of Michael Parsons. That's made their defense play really better. So I'm gonna say yes, but I don't want you to tell a whole lot of other people that it's kind of worked out for both teams. And sometimes that's rare. You think one team won, one team didn't, but it kind of worked out for both teams. And especially, it's not just a 1-year fix. Like Kenny Clark, you can get off of his money with no penalty, but the way this defense and this 5-man front has been playing, why not keep your 3 defensive tackles and play really well and have your edges that didn't get any pressure early in the season start to get a little one-on-one matchup because everyone's so concerned with what's going on in the middle. So, man, I don't want to be sports guy here and play both sides, but I think it's a win for both teams. And while at first it didn't seem like it's working out for Dallas here so far.
Donovan Lewis from the Ticket in Dallas, my guest. The best wide receiver on the Dallas Cowboys is who?
CeeDee Lamb.
Still CeeDee.
Yes. Yes, but George Pickens, man, he is a close second, and maybe he's making up the stagger. CeeDee Lamb had a nice jump on the track, and now George Pickens is catching him because he's been playing so well. And I think a lot of that may be the product of CeeDee Lamb being on the other side, the way George Pickens is being played and his ability to get open and a lot more one-on-ones. Like, the dude is really good, but I still think that CeeDee Lamb is the more complete receiver. If you're talking about specific routes, slant route, go route, give me Pickens all day. But as far as everything else, as far as the receiver goes, man, I love CD. He had 2 bad games this year, both against Philadelphia. Other than that, that dude has been so money. He's one of the toughest SOBs you can ever think of, ever imagine. And he's just been there for this team when, especially last year when they had nothing and Dak was hurt. That dude was hurt and still coming out there playing. I love CD. So it's going to take a lot for me to say. But I would tell you honestly if George Pickens was the better receiver, but I still think CD is.
Are they going to pay George Pickens?
Oh, that's enough. Man, you're asking me so many tough questions like I'm taking the SAT around here. I don't know how to answer this. I think
do you want them to?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I think that if you have discovered that your offense is one of the tops in the NFL because of those 2 weapons you have on the outside, you've invested so heavily in your quarterback. You've invested heavily in a wide receiver and a tight end with an extension. Now you've seen the other skilled players that you brought in, George Pickens, Javonte Williams, play really well. Why not have this offense cook like it's been cooking this year for the next 2 or 3? So I think they will. I think they may use their leverage as far as the franchise tag goes, just to lock them up and then see if they can come to a long-term deal and see if they can, how you can manipulate the cap or whatever you want to do with a long-term deal. So, yes, I can't imagine this offense next year without George Pickens and CeeDee Lamb. That would be one of the biggest disappointments ever.
I think maybe for a lot of people, the bigger surprise with George Pickens is not his production, but his behavior. Obviously things in Pittsburgh did not, go well at times. Is there any, would you say that if there's any caveat or any hesitancy on the part of the Cowboys that it would be, is this guy in a contract year on his best behavior? And what are we going to get from him if we do lock him up, especially with the franchise tag, Donovan, because most players don't like that.
Right. No. I think everything that you said is true. And I thought even going into the season, when you have a George Pickens, you say you're going to get the best version because that dude wants to get paid. Selfishly, he wants to go out there and say, I'm going to perform at my highest level because this may be the one and only time I'm able to get a contract that I feel is worth my value. So you're going to get him on his P's and Q's. And that's always in the back of your head. But, man, call me crazy, and a lot of people have. Call me crazy, but I just don't this is going to sound weird, but there are some instances where you have some issues with some players that will bother me more than others. And being a young guy coming out of Georgia and having some of those same things that he did in Georgia, I feel like there are some times where people will just think and grow up. And maybe I'm thinking that his issues that he had in Pittsburgh are just of the I'm just a young man thinking I'm the man kind of mentality, instead of coming in saying, man, I've been in this league for a few years. Now I have this contract. Now I'm a little bit more responsible. I have this duty, this obligation to go out there and perform now since I got mine. So, man, maybe I'm giving him the benefit of the doubt. I don't think it would bother me once he signed that, but I can absolutely see someone having an issue with saying, okay, now that he got his money, are we going to see the old George Pickens? And he kind of put himself in that position to have that thought about it. So I wouldn't worry about it. I would say, man, the way you played this year and what you've meant to this offense, I would just go forward and say, hey, let's do this. Let's run this back because this offense has been very, very explosive.
And the other part is, with all due respect to the Pittsburgh Steelers, I don't know that he's had someone throw him the football as good as Dak.
Right.
So there's a little bit of that going on, I would think, with George Pickens to say, hey, I'm in a pretty good spot right here with Dallas.
Absolutely. Any receiver in Pittsburgh is probably going, my goodness, what are we doing here? Now that Ben Roethlisberger is gone, who's been the quarterbacks trying to throw? Justin Fields, Russell Wilson. Like, those two, you're like, my gosh, I think I'd be frustrated also. Maybe not an excuse to say to act the way he's acted, but
sure.
I see what you're saying. Now you're in a situation where, dude, you're going to get looks. You're going to get looks all the time in this offense with this quarterback and the other guy on the other side. So it seemed like it would make you appreciate what you have and knowing what you have and just, hey, let's just go straight and narrow and everything will be okay.
Donovan Lewis, my guest. Let's talk about the consequence of tonight and moving forward. Is the talk down there division title?
Yes, it is division title. It is division title with the asterisk of, will Philadelphia kind of crater like they did a couple of years ago? Because that feels like that's the case right now. And that's wishful thinking because, man, they're the Super Bowl champs. Maybe they're going through a rocky time and everyone goes through their ups and downs. Hell, the Cowboys have gone through a rocky time this year and they're working themselves out of it. Philadelphia can. But San Francisco right now is the 7th seed and they have 9 wins. I just don't see how you can catch San Francisco or any of the wild card teams that's playing right now. The thing that's hurting you is that the NFC West is a very good division with 3 really good teams that are going to make the playoffs. And the NFC North is a really good division with 2 almost guaranteed to make it and 1 fighting their butts off to make it. And now you're playing them tonight. So it just feels like the only way, the best possible way, is to hope Philadelphia is in a tailspin and you can catch them, because you do have a game against them. That tie may help you out as far as number of losses go to try to get that division. So it's gone from 3 weeks ago saying, don't even say the P word because that's not possible, to wait a minute now. Wait a minute. You win tonight. Philadelphia has a tough road game. Monday night against the Chargers, they lose. You are a half game back and you are right there. So all eyes on Philadelphia, man. I know a lot of people are being realistic, but they're being realistic thinking that Philadelphia could fall flat on their faces. And it's kind of possible. We've had no repeat winner in the NFC East for 2 decades. So why change the narrative now? Why not have Philadelphia get in a little quicksand and you go up there and try to catch them? And it's on its way now. Maybe they feel the pressure. Who knows? But you got to take care of your business, and that's the number 1 goal.
Well, how do they take care of the business, Donovan Lewis? What's the biggest thing tonight for Dallas?
They have got to stop Detroit from running up and down the field. And we've been joking around here thinking that every time a team plays the Cowboys, they rub their hands together and saying, this is our get-right game. No matter what we've been doing badly on offense, this is our get-right game against the Cowboys. And now for the last couple of weeks, you've seen teams actually adjust and say, we can't run the football in the middle of this defense anymore, and we're not used to that. So this is the true test, because Detroit is going to run the football. No question about it. With Gibbs and Montgomery, and especially if Amon-Ra St. Brown is out, they are going to run it. If they can control the running game of Detroit and make Goff get back there and throw it around, which seems weird with Detroit, but if they can, and get a little pressure up the middle on them, man, I think that's the one and only path to them winning this game. I think they can win a shootout. I don't know if they can win a game where it's just one of those hard to move around, offense can't do anything type of game. So you got to make sure your offense is clicking like it's been. And Detroit has some injuries on both sides of the ball. If you can take advantage of that and throw it around and use Pickens and CeeDee Lamb and put points on the board and put pressure on Detroit to throw it, you got a good shot. If they can run it, it's going to be a long night, man. It seriously is.
Well, our coverage from Westwood One will begin at 5:30, kickoff just after 6 o'clock. Follow Donovan on X at Great Donovan. Donovan Lewis, glad we had a chance to catch back up. Hope all is well down there in the Metroplex, and I look forward to the next time you and I get a chat.
I always love talking to you, man. Thank you so much for inviting me, and we'll talk to you again soon.
Yeah, absolutely, buddy. Anytime. That is Donovan Lewis, one of the best doing it, breaking down the Dallas Cowboys on the ticket on a daily basis. Again, at Great Donovan on X. You know, some of these late season matchups on prime time, because they're so, especially Thursday, it's fixed, right? We don't get a lot of games like this that have so much consequence to them. But I think one thing I will definitely agree with Donovan on, I think the path for Dallas is the division. I do. And obviously tonight would help them do that, but then you'd have the other part of it where maybe you put yourself in a position that if somebody does on the NFC West drop off, you're the next team up. But if I'm a Dallas Cowboys fan, I'm certainly looking at the division as a possibility and maybe the most likely path to the postseason. Again, just after 6 is when that game will kick off. It'll be a good one tonight. 719-247-1313. Take your thoughts on tonight's game if you have them. We'll have more Drive Time Sports right after this. I don't think there is. I mean, this happens in every league, but I don't think there's a league where we have these kind of conversations more than the NBA about just picking up players, mock trades and things like that, because the NBA is such a player-driven league and so in many ways individualistic. The stories are the players. And yesterday you had the news about Giannis Antetokounmpo, or the reports that he's going to sit down with the Bucks, and it's like, you don't think they've had these conversations before, but that's fine. Whatever. They're going to have this official meeting about his future, and wouldn't you know it, that very night Giannis hurts himself and he's out for a month. So they were going to have to wait past December 15th anyway, because that's when everyone who signed a deal in the offseason can be traded. But yeah, I don't know who's trading for Giannis while he's hurt. I mean, I guess the Lakers traded for Luka while he was hurt. So if you want Giannis bad enough and that's the way the timeline goes, then so be it. But the other story, certainly not as consequential, like getting Giannis is a game changer. Getting Chris Paul is notable. But Mark Spears used to be on the Nuggets beat, is reporting that Chris Paul absolutely, in case there was any doubt, does want to continue to play. And if you have not been following this story, so in the middle of the night, the Clippers, and they'll say that they had a delay on their flight with Atlanta, and by the time they get into the hotel and sit down and have a meeting, and that took many hours. Now that's why it ended up being the middle of the night that they sent Chris Paul home. Still, I think there's a better way to go about it for a guy who is arguably the best player to ever play for your franchise. Not the way that Lob City ended with the whole Donald Sterling thing, but those Lob City teams are about as good as it gets with Clippers basketball. And Chris Paul, along with Blake Griffin, were the faces of that. It just looks really bad. And then you get the reports coming out that the reason why, and this could be a little bit of spin with these insiders. You always wonder where the insiders are getting their information. Is it from the team or is it from the agent of the player? I think Shams putting out that the reason why the Clippers didn't want Chris Paul around anymore was because how he held the organization accountable. That is a very agent spun message. And it makes the Clippers look really bad. In addition to them letting a franchise legend be sent home in the middle of the night. While they were on the road, by the way. You can find your own way back to LA, right, Chris? Okay, cool. Thanks for the memories. But to hold the fact that he was holding the Clippers organization accountable and they didn't like that was a distraction. It makes the Clippers look even worse. What I think it really is that Chris Paul, it is him trying to hold everybody accountable. But when you are a player with a very small role on the team, even if you are Chris Paul, the fact of the matter is you're not a key player to the LA Clippers. And for you to be talking as much as you are, to be getting into it in some ways with players and the coaches, and it's reported that he and Ty Lue weren't even speaking. You could make the argument that, hey, the Clippers should listen to this guy. He's about one of the only people on that team that knows what winning basketball looks like. But at the same time, you're in a minimized role. You being the guy that's holding everyone accountable in a vocal way, I could see how that bothered people. You're getting X number of minutes a night, and you're talking like you're James Harden and playing 40 minutes and leading us in every statistical category. Like, there's a way, and I think his former teammate DeAndre Jordan, and I get it, different personalities, but I think DeAndre Jordan, why does he stick around? Like, DeAndre Jordan had a voice on the Denver Nuggets, but was it a harsh voice or was it more rah-rah trying to lift up the team? It was the latter. And that's the kind of veteran, and DeAndre Jordan's a name, right? He was part of those Lob City teams. He's made a lot of money. He's been to all-star games. But the role he had with the Denver Nuggets was trying to lift everybody up, and he was the jokester, and that's an influence you want around, even if at times DeAndre Jordan's holding guys accountable. But with Chris Paul, I can imagine is just barking constantly. And maybe that's not really needed. Unceremonious way to say goodbye to one of your franchise's best players, to be sure. And then we have the tree thing with aspiration with Kawhi Leonard, and Kawhi's not playing, and the Clippers are awful, and the Thunder own their pick. It's really bad right now in LA. But Chris Paul wants to play, wants to continue his career. And my question is, what do you want? Do you want the farewell tour? Is that what you want more than anything else? Because a nice full circle moment, go to New Orleans. I mean, New Orleans has got nothing going on. One of the only teams that's in worse shape than the Clippers is the Pelicans. They don't have their first round pick either. And they're looking to take, I mean, they're on Facebook Marketplace shopping Zion Williamson. They're like, well, we would like this, but we'll basically take any decent offer for Zion. Like, do you want that? Because I think Chris Paul would have a bigger role with New Orleans. But do you just want that? Do you want to be celebrated? Do you want to have that farewell tour? Or do you want one last shot at going deep in the playoffs? And are you willing to go outside of California to do it? Because that was also part of it with Chris Paul. He wanted to be close to his family, which I don't begrudge him. But given what has happened in LA, and given where he is at this stage of his career, you may need to cast a wider net if you're Chris Paul. But what are his motivations? Does he just want to play out the rest of the season and have his farewell tour, or does he want to contribute in some small way to winning? I don't think there's a fit with him on the Nuggets. I don't. Maybe there's another championship contender. New York. Perhaps. Maybe there's someone else. But I don't think Denver. I don't think Denver needs him. I don't. And I get it. It feels like at times the Nuggets don't have a backup point guard. They really don't, unless you're counting Jalen Pickett. But when they're fully healthy, Bruce Brown handling the ball with the second unit is fine. Because getting back to what was rubbing the Clippers the wrong way, he's not going to have a large role with the Denver Nuggets. And if he's barking at everybody all the time, don't forget that he played all 82 last year for the San Antonio Spurs, and the Spurs are like, yeah, we're done here. I think there's a lot of recalibration that Chris Paul has to do if he's going to end up on a contender. He needs to accept the role that he has. I understand that it's probably frustrating for him. The Clippers, a lot of people thought they'd be a good team. They're terrible. But if you're going to go to a team that is expected to be good, is already good, then I think that team has to have assurances that Chris Paul is not going to be trying to run things like this is, 5 years ago. But I don't think Denver's the landing spot. And where Chris Paul goes will tell us everything about what he's trying to get out of the end of his career. But man, things are bad in LA. And I'm not a big believer in the Clippers. I thought that once that skirmish happened in the Nuggets series, that it really changed things, and the Nuggets were a different team. And I thought they were much better than the Clippers. I thought the Lakers would be better than the Clippers this year, but I didn't think it would be this bad. What a way to send out one of your franchise's legends, though. My goodness. We'll see where he goes. Out of morbid curiosity, I would love for him, if he wants to stay in LA or stay in California and just get the farewell tour, let's put him in a backcourt with Russell Westbrook. Let's do that. The Kings are the great landing spot they're like the land of misfit toys. Like, if you have any brand recognition, they'll take you, even though they should be a team that's absolutely tanking and playing young players like Colorado Springs' own Nate Clifford. They seem to want these cast-off veterans that once made all-star teams. Put Chris Paul and Russell Westbrook. It wouldn't work. It would be a disaster because they both need the ball in their hands, but I like to see of the two of them coexisting on a team together here at the end of both of their careers. So yeah, the latest two names to come up in the NBA, Giannis and Chris Paul. I don't foresee either being a realistic option for the Denver Nuggets. One is tempting. Giannis is tempting. I don't think the Nuggets would have any desire to add Chris Paul to the mix, even if it was at bargain bin prices. 719-247-1313. The three stories that are driving the show are coming up next. Hello there. Welcome in. We have hit the home stretch on this Thursday edition of the show because at the bottom of the hour, it will be a significant Thursday night football tilt between the Dallas Cowboys and Detroit Lions, but still time to get your thoughts in on this Thursday, 719 24/7 1313. Stacey McIntyre, the head coach of the Air Force women's basketball team, set to join me in the next segment. Perhaps a bit of revenge on the docket for this weekend against Utah Valley, the team they lost to in the first round of the WNIT last year. In the meantime, here are the three stories that are driving the show. All right, we start with a huge night from Jamal Murray, who I thought was supposed to be hurt.
Nuggets need to keep scoring. Murray, corner. Yes! Jamal Murray! Get out the marshmallows. He's on fire!
Chris Marlowe on the call for altitude. Yes, the Nuggets needed to keep scoring because their defense was quite poor last night, but that's not the story. The story is Jamal Murray putting up 52 points, hitting 10 of his 11 three-pointers as the Nuggets beat the Indiana Pacers 135-120. What you saw last night, at least from an offensive standpoint, is the best version of the Denver Nuggets when it comes to their two stars. Because when Nikola Jokic scores 40 or more, the Nuggets do not win nearly as much as you think they would. Because it's taking him away from what he does best, which is facilitate for everyone else. However, when Jamal Murray scores a ton of points, let's say 40 or more, the Denver Nuggets are now a perfect 11-0. The best version of the Nuggets is Jamal Murray putting up big scoring numbers. And he's not going to do this every night, but it continues to be an all-star caliber season for Jamal Murray. We see what he is when he's at his absolute best. And last night, he was at his absolute best. The diversity in the way he was attacking, whether it's getting to the rim, where it's the step back shot from three or mid-range game, when he puts it all together, he's as good a scorer as we have in the league. It's just, you're not going to get that as on a regular basis like you may get from, a Luka or someone like that. But when he's on his game, when he's at his best, he's as good scoring the basketball as anybody in the NBA. But it adds to what has been an all-star caliber season for him. And last night was also a little test here to see, okay, here's an injury. How's Jamal Murray going to play? Are there going to be lingering effects? And he looked great. He looked great last night. I think one thing that really helps that is keeping your physical form fit. That helps you deal with injuries a little bit more, especially your legs and ankles and feet. But it's a sight to behold when Jamal Murray is cooking like he was last night. And the drum beats are certainly getting louder to put Jamal Murray into his first All-Star game and finally give Nikola Jokic a teammate traveling with him to the All-Star game. One team note on the Nuggets, by the way, that is their 8th consecutive road win. Go figure. They've lost 4 in a row at home, and they've won 8 in a row on the road. That 8 straight wins away from Ball Arena, franchise record. 135, 120. Jamal Murray, a very ethical, only 5 free throws, 52 points for the Nuggets in the win last night. Here's story number 2.
I hate losing more than anything like in the world. And so I think fear of failure is a very significant motivating factor.
That is Broncos head coach Sean Payton, who should be instilled with the fear of failure a lot this week. Not because the team that the Broncos are facing is one where you worry that they could win, but losing to the Raiders would be a failure. This cannot be the way that the Broncos winning streak comes to an end. This cannot be a loss that you take at this juncture of the season when you are in a position to own the tiebreaker over New England for the top seed in the AFC. This is one that the Broncos cannot fumble away. So that fear of failure that consumes Sean Payton at times, that's going to be there this week because it can't end like this winning streak. But what the opportunity is for the Denver Broncos here is to really put away the any lingering thought of what happened the last time these two teams met up, which was, even in a win, as bad a performance as we have seen from the Denver Broncos this season. And given how the playoff field in the AFC is shaping up, the idea that the Broncos can adjust from a previous meeting with the same team, I think is valuable, given that they could meet Kansas City for a third time, the Chargers for a third time, the Colts for a second time. These are all the Houston Texans they could see again. And adjustments and improvements can be made even from a win. So to show the Broncos' ability, as this still is an unproven team, right? They played all of one playoff game. The ability to distill what happened to you in the previous meeting and make those necessary adjustments to have a better performance the next time out, that's the mark of a really good team. That's the mark of a championship team. I mean, how many times, just to make a comparison to a team in the division, how many times over the years have the Chiefs lost to the Bills during the regular season, or lost to anybody during the regular season, met up with them in the playoffs, and it's a different story, or it's an even better Chiefs performance? If the Broncos are taking the mantle of being that division's best team, and with that being one of the teams on the short list that you could see coming out of the AFC, the ability to be better the second time around against a particular opponent, even if it is the Raiders, I think is a valuable trait for the Broncos to showcase on Sunday. But first and foremost, you cannot let this winning streak come to an end against this team. Kick them while they're down. Broncos and Raiders coming up on Sunday. Story number 3 today is a big-time accolade for Air Force defenseman Chris Hedden, who is my guest back in hour number 1. He has been named the co-defender of the month in November by the Hockey Coaches Association. What does that mean? That Chris Hedden right now is playing that position at the highest level of anybody in college hockey. It's something that has not happened since, I believe, one of the Lamoureux brothers back in 2008 was the last Air Force player to win such an accolade. And Chris Hedden has been a catalyst for Air Force in the run that they're on, where they swept Army and they took points from their last series as well. They're moving up the standings. They're back at home against Robert Morris this Friday and Saturday. But the growth of Chris Hedden, and I thought Frank Serratori made a very interesting point on Tuesday during his coach's show here on Extra Sports 1300. I think he intimated that Chris Hedden was trying to do too much. He is so talented as a defenseman that at times, perhaps Chris Hedden felt like he had to carry the team. And sometimes when you feel that way, you don't actually do what's best for your team. And Chris Hedden admitted that it was necessary for him to learn, okay, I don't have to do everything. I can do everything, which is good because if Air Force needs this, I can do that. If they need this, I can do that. But understanding that he doesn't have to be everything to the Falcons at once has actually allowed him to flourish as being named the best defenseman in college hockey in the month of November would indicate. He's playing at the highest level he's played at. So very cool accolade being given to Chris Hedden there, and it's well-deserved. As the Air Force starting to turn it on here over the last couple of weeks, and they will be hosting Robert Morris Friday and Saturday. You can hear both games of that series here on Extra Sports 1300, or better yet, you can go to the game. Games, plural, aftickets.com. 719-247-1313 is the number if you want to give your thoughts on the three stories that are driving the show. You know, Chris Hedden, quite a valuable player to the Falcons, perhaps their MVP. When it comes to testosterone replacement therapy, the real MVPs are Synergenics and Low T Center. They are also the originals, the trusted experts who've been doing this right from the start. They use pharmaceutical-grade testosterone, not that sketchy compounded stuff you might get from other places. That means you know exactly what's going into your body and it's working the way it should. And here's a big one. They accept most major insurance plans, while other clinics and online services are charging you sky-high prices for labs, testing, and memberships. Synergenics and Low T Center keep it affordable and transparent. They've helped thousands of guys get their energy, focus, and drive back, and they can help you too. Don't wait. Go to trtmvp.com. That's trtmvp.com and book your appointment today. The real MVPs are ready to help you get your life back. Welcome back, Drive Time Sports, on your home for Air Force women's basketball. Extra Sports 1300. The Falcons 4-4 on the year after beating Wright State on Saturday. They'll turn around this Saturday and take on Utah Valley. Joining me now to chat about her team is the head coach of the Falcons, Stacey McIntyre. Coach, appreciate the time. How are you today?
I'm great, Ryan. Thank you.
So as you had a chance to review the film from the Wright State game, you and I chatted about how good of a performance that was. What stuck out to you in film study that you liked most about your team's performance?
Something very important going into Utah Valley is, this team, they go to the offensive board. So if you look at that box from the Wright State game, we did a great job on the boards. I mean, we had a lot of people in. Clearly, Jada McNabb in double figures on the boards, and Marissa Hargrave gave us a lot of boards. Emily Adams did a great job, but it was a team effort on the boards. We're going to need a lot more of that this week.
One player you just mentioned, Jada McNabb, she's good at rebounding on both ends of the floor, but she's in the top 5 in the nation in offensive rebounding. Is there a different skill set mentality that you have to have on the offensive end, or is it just that Jada is getting those rebounds? I'm just curious because she seems to have a knack for the offensive boards more than some of the other players that we see in the Mountain West.
I think anytime you have a kid like Jada, she's a great athlete. She's extremely quick to the ball. And the best offensive rebounders just have a nose for the ball. And that's one of her gifts and her superpowers, something she brings to the floor consistently. And she just is, has a great work ethic. And that's just something she's always done for this program. And, something that she's very good at. We're going to need a lot more of it.
Stacey McIntyre, head coach of the Air Force Falcons, my guest. Milani Perry keeps moving up the all-time scoring list in program history. In your time at the academy, I don't want to ask you to put her above anybody, but just as herself as a player, I mean, how would you compare her to other players that you've maybe had in the past, and how special of a player she might be?
I mean, I would, if I look at Milani and think about some of the great players we've had in this program, and certainly dynamic on the offensive end of the floor. And, she's a great athlete. And I would put her, I think of Kaylin Emmel, I think of Riley Snyder, from a point production and their ability to make things happen on the offensive end of the floor. And she's just that. I mean, she has that knack to get downhill, and she's very difficult to guard. And I think teams know that, hey, she'll knock down 1 or 2 threes here and there, but her gift is just weaving her way into the paint and being very dynamic as she gets downhill. And I think everybody has the same scouting report on her. They know exactly what she's good at, what her strengths are, what she's going to do, but still very hard to stop.
Bigger picture, are you not necessarily the record, but just from what you're seeing, is this team where you expected it to be at this point late in the non-conference?
Well, I think when you look at your preseason schedule, you do the math on your wins and losses. And I always say that there's some games, when you get to the end of the season, or certainly in the Mountain West Conference, that you wish you had a couple back. So, there are 1 or 2 games that I wish we had back, but certainly a learning experience. And, with a drop to Florida Atlantic in our first game in Florida, but very proud of just how we responded against Wright State.
Can I call Saturday a revenge game for you guys against Utah Valley? Am I allowed to use that? How much of last year is going to be in your conversations with the team leading up to it?
Very seldom do you play the same team 3 times in a year.
I know,
and,
right?
clearly we had a home and home with them and threw them in the the NIT, and they just pounded the ball inside against us. And just from a readiness standpoint, I don't think we were, for where we needed to be, just mentally, going into that game. So I think from a readiness standpoint, we will be more prepared. But I guess you could call it a revenge game, but for us, it's just, a game we need to execute, and another road game, which we've had many of, that we need to win.
Yeah, it has been very road heavy. The non-conference schedule. How much are you looking forward to the schedule once conference play rolls around to kind of even out home and road? I got to imagine when that schedule balances, it gives you maybe a little bit better idea of what this team can be when you're not having to go constantly and travel elsewhere.
And I think, we underestimate how challenging the travel can be, and with the load academically that these kids have, and how we still have to stay focused academically while, figuring out how to win games on the road. It will be nice to balance that out during the conference. And, we have a home game on the 13th against New Mexico Highlands, so that'll be nice to get back at home. And then we follow that with a road trip to Utah State, and then we'll be back at home again against Nevada on the 20th.
And it will be a great opportunity for you to see the Falcons in action in those two games coming up. Again, New Mexico Highlands 1 week from this Saturday, and then the first home game of the conference season against Nevada a little bit later this month. Up first, though, Utah Valley in a revenge game for the Falcons Saturday at 2:00. You could hear it on 740 KVOR. Stacey, appreciate the time, and best of luck against Utah Valley.
Thank you, Ryan.
Yep, we'll talk later. That is Stacey McIntyre, the head coach of the Air Force Falcons, still willing to come onto the program, even though she has to deal with me before each and every one of their games. She mentioned that in relationship to whether this team is where she wanted them to be at this point or expected them to be, that FAU game is the one that kind of really, for me, not that I matter, but that's the one for me that really felt like Air Force had that game and let it get away. You go back and look at a couple of the other losses. Oregon State, you don't really have to look back because you know what they are. They're a team that's going to compete to go to the NCAA tournament. UC San Diego is a team that made the tournament last year. So while there were aspects of those games that I think Air Force would have liked to perform better in, those are, I guess we use the phrase in sports, quality losses. Like, those are really good teams that Air Force is measuring themselves against. And I thought they were in that entire game against Oregon State. They showed a lot of really good things there. Even you look at South Dakota. South Dakota, last time I checked, was unbeaten. They haven't lost a game yet. So I don't think Air Force feels like they should be 4-4 right now. I think they wish that they had a better record, expect to have a better record. But you look at their losses, and they're not, other than that third quarter against FAU, I don't think they can really look and say that they lost to a team beneath their station. They've played some very good teams in this non-conference. And Utah Valley is going to be another one. Both meetings last year were really good. Really competitive. So we'll see what Air Force has in terms of beating Utah Valley on Saturday, and then 1 week from Saturday, their final non-conference home game of the season against New Mexico Highlands. That will do it for the show. My thanks to Stacey McIntyre, Donovan Lewis of The Ticket in Dallas, and Chris Hedden, Air Force defenseman, all join me on the show. Right now, enjoy Thursday Night Football. It's a big one. Dallas and Detroit here on Extra Sports 1300.